Hello and welcome to this episode of Climate Watch. I'm Zhou Fang. China and the UK have forged a robust foundation in advancing green energy and climate action. Despite different climate neutrality pathways, collaboration thrives. In 2010, the two sides held the first China-UK Energy Dialogue, establishing a platform for bilateral cooperation and exchange. During the 8th China-UK Energy Dialogue held last year, both sides engaged in discussions on topics including clean energy technologies, energy transition pathways, and international energy governance. Following the meeting, representatives from the two sides signed the China-UK Clean Energy Partnership Memorandum of Understanding, which identified key areas for collaboration, such as offshore wind power, carbon capture, utilization and storage, as well as clean, low-carbon and renewable hydrogen. In recent years, cooperation between China and the UK in the offshore wind sector has grown increasingly close, transitioning from project investments by Chinese companies to deeper industrial integration. At the same time, the technological frontier of cooperation has extended to emerging fields, such as offshore wind to hydrogen production. Senior officials from both countries have identified the sector as a key direction for cooperation in the latest energy dialogues. This marks an upgrade in the two countries' cooperation from power production to integrated energy solutions. In this episode, I spoke with Guan Dabo, Distinguished Chair Professor of Climate Change Research from Tsinghua University. Professor Guan, the UK possesses leading offshore wind technology and project operation experience. At the same time, China has achieved rapid development in wind power in recent years. What is the current focus of cooperation in this field between the two sides?
Firstly, there has been some of the government-to-government dialogues, strategic coordinations on that. China-UK has been collaborating more closely on electricity grid, on this renewable energy. Overall, it has become a standard channel to discuss how the clean energy technologies would be able to cooperate together between UK and China. Myself, on behalf of Tsinghua Institute for Carbon Neutrality, we host the Lord Valence, who is the Minister of Science and Technology in the UK. His visit to China, to Tsinghua, to give a public open speech about UK are very much willing to collaborate with China on many clean energy technologies, energy transition technologies, even the fossil fuel phase down kind of technologies, and also many other parts, AI, data, etc., etc. So this kind of a clean energy partnership between the two countries would be able to serve as a basis for many other collaborations would happen, like from an academic perspective, from the industry perspective. A lot of the energy firms, like the CEOs of the energy corporates, like BP, etc., and they are discussing various of collaborations with Chinese enterprises as well, from the grid integrations and the battery storage, wind, offshore wind especially, CCS. I think that's just we will see huge cooperations between two countries. The partnership between the government, also between the industries are happening. The mutual visits between UK and Chinese researchers was very frequent, possibly still quite frequent, but it was more on the informal way. But we do need those large-scale formal channel between the academic institutions to have a joint research together. That would actually provide lots of the patents and also the early kind of new technologies to the industry, to the market.
You mentioned your participation in clean energy cooperation between the two sides. As a professor in a university, you've been conducting academic exchanges. From your perspective and observation, What do you think are China's specific advantages in this area? I mean, clean energy, cooperation, and can you talk something about the key collaborative outcomes between the two sides?
That's right. Yeah. So I think the key advantage in China, there's a several fold. But the first fold is that from the clean energy, doesn't matter it's wind, solar, grid, and the batteries, storage, etc., etc. China now, I think, has the largest number of the researchers really researching in the energy transitions. And then this is, I think, this is the advantage of from the research power perspective on this. The second, I think, is from the industry perspective. We have the full supply chain basically in China. We have from productions and then to these applications and to the final consumers. And is like from the grid perspective, from generation, from transmissions, from distributions, and then down to the consumptions and the storage. And of course, there's some clean energy technologies. UK has a comparison advantage as well, but the collaboration on this is very important. The next is that the industries in China are investing hugely on this. The industries is actually working with academic institutions to deploy, to scale up the new patents or the new technologies on that. But finally, I think the most important is that the government from China is very much support the carbon neutrality transitions, especially leading by the new energy transitions. So we will see not only the solar PVs and then the wind installation capacities increase several fold over the last 10 years. They will increase another six-fold, I think, by 2035. This is the latest Chinese commitment. Wind and solar is going to increase six-fold by 2035 compared to 2020's level. So those are our confidence in China. We able to achieve that. So this is because we have the large scale. Now we are able to lower the price down. We have the scale effects and to have to achieve the cheaper price for that. China has a huge comparative advantage to the new energy related energy transitions. UK, of course, I'm not saying that UK doesn't have any comparative advantage for offshore wind, for many key components in the wind turbines, for hydrogens. UK has a lot of advantage on this and have many patents on this. CCS, carbon capture and storage, especially carbon capture utilization and storage. UK was the first actually in the world to demonstrate the carbon capture storage.
That's why. So, Professor Guan, I got your point. It means that the two countries both have their own strengths in clean energy, and that's why they can cooperate using their complementary strengths to realize better effects. There is one clean energy, which is hydrogen. It has emerged as a very popular choice for different countries, including China and the UK. And actually, the UK government has identified hydrogen as a core component of its net zero strategy. At the same time, China also places high importance on hydrogen industry development. How can the two countries conduct cooperation grounded in their complementary strengths in this field to realize, both ecological and economical benefits?
Yes, so UK is a more like an island-based country. So what does that mean is that the wind resources is a lot for the UK, and there's many small islands, especially in north part of the UK. In China, similarly, near Zhejiang and Guangzhou, there's many little islands on that. So the offshore winds will become a very obvious kind of options to generate electricity. on this. So both UK and China would actually exploring what will be the opportunity, what will be the options for making use of those offshore wind, electricity. So they can build those transmission lines back to the mainland. On the other hand, you have the storage, energy storage, do that. But to make it more economically feasible, it's what they called the energy islands. Basically, what does it means is that you have the wind turbines installations in that you generate electricities, and those electricity to electrify the water and get hydrogen out of that. And then the hydrogens you could sell the hydrogens later on, or you could use the hydrogen for some other to make clean fuels basically for
Is it
ships.
green methanol?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, methanol basically to make methanol or many other different chemical products. And then the methanol can be used as a fuel to power large machineries and ships in the future, possibly aircraft as well. So those is the key. That's this integration. It's more like a industry park basically for a small island. You can do that at the same time. And many proposals have been saying that on the top of that, you could also have a manufacturer like a factory on this island to produce wind turbines. The key reason is that the wind turbine is usually very, very long. It's like 30 meters at the minimum, and it's very difficult to be transported. And then to have a local production, once you produce that and then install that on this island, and then you literally solve a very interesting microgrid, like a mini economy, basically. That's the thing. But this, I don't think neither in the UK or China has been put into practice because the investments on the infrastructure would require quite a bit. So, but doesn't meaning that in the future wouldn't make that happen, because once you make the hydrogen or the methanol or many other chemical products, you could also use it for steel, for oil refinery, and then whatever you require clean fuel to do that.
Since we're talking about making green fuel like green methanol out of hydrogen using wind power, offshore wind power, it must involve some kind of equipment. So let's talk about equipment manufacturing in China. So what do you think China's manufacturing capability in this field will do for this future development?
China has the full supply chain for the renewable energy equipment, solar PV and wind turbines. Over 2/3 of the manufacturing capacities for wind turbines is actually in China, from power generation to transmission lines, even to distribution, and the batteries for storage. Majority of the capacities in China. And we are exporting to Europe, to many other countries, to globally as well. So this is, we have a whole part of the full supply chain to matching our new energy strategy in China, and the carbon neutrality strategy as well. So that would actually put a lot of effort, not only to clean growth for China, but also clean growth for many other countries in the world as well.
And the 8th China-UK Energy Dialogue took place last year. The two sides actually signed the China-UK Clean Energy Partnership Memorandum of Understanding, which is the MOU. So the MOU identifies key cooperation areas, including the CCUS. It's a short term for carbon capture, utilization and storage, right? You also mentioned a major working group, which is called the Industrial Decarbonization Working Group. Actually, the first meeting of this major working group also took place last year. So many recent events going on between the two sides, focusing on green development and climate action. So, what is your perspective on these recent events to promote green cooperation between the two countries? What signals do you think they send?
It's really great signals. That's meaning that developed countries such as UK is willing to embrace the supply chain of China on the clean energy technologies and then the equipment and manufacturing of that. And talking about the CCUS, it's actually because we are in China and together also UK and the US. They are still using some portion of fossil fuels. UK China had the first international like a bilateral CCUS center in the world, actually in Guangdong. And this cooperation has moved beyond from like a dialogues towards a much practical oriented basically. So it's not only providing policy regulatory advices, but this has some joint R&D, research and development activities, knowledge exchange between two countries, and also a lot of practical deployment pilot projects going on already. So it's basically a dissemination of the best practice already. I think also there's some like standards alignments is been agreed and then some be advanced. Outside of Shenzhen, there's a Haifeng electricity plants as a pilot project for this UK-China CCUS center. Basically, they've been co-development of demonstrations to produce some real engineering validation in the power plants. So basically, so they monitoring commercially developed the power generation. So they put in practice into the operations. Yeah. So I think those are very important. I think they are still testing, how this CCS linking with some other technology as well between the industry clusters and even hydrogens as well.
So I know you are an expert in climate adaptation and resilience. So let's talk more about this. My question is, could China and the UK collaborate in this area to not only benefit the two countries, but also help other countries, especially developing countries, to improve their climate change adaptation capacity and resilience? China's action plan on early warning for climate change adaptation, it's committed to co-building climate risk monitoring and forecasting platforms with developing countries. So what's your response to this?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very important, and because I'm a researcher on this particular field as well, so I know that early warning, especially disaster like climate extreme events, forecasting is extremely difficult, and it's one of the hardest research questions to not only to Chinese and British researchers, but to the globally as well. For those major disasters that like UK and China shared, like a storm surging and hurricanes, which is a typhoon in China and in the UK as well, flash flooding. So basically city level, flash flooding on that. Well, it's a consequence of the global warming. But on the other hand, we need to increase our resilience, especially our infrastructures. On the other hand, we provide the early warning for that, for the flooding, for the hurricanes, for many other things, and to save the economy, save the people's life as well. This is very important. Let me emphasize a little bit one more on the infrastructure side. The UK, especially, most infrastructures have been built, like say, decades ago. They are gradually updating them, but however, all this updating and upgrading for the existing infrastructure, power lines, transmission lines, pipelines, etc., are being built with the standards of the past 30 years of climate. or even the past 60 years of average climate. So it's not able to cope with faster changing and the frequent disaster, climate extreme events we are having on here. So this is very important. It's very important. The research and the engineering solutions need to give huge attention to adaptation and the resilience, increasing resilience on infrastructure. And also from an engineering perspective, they need a strong collaboration as well. The engineering is usually technology solutions. Much of the focus on the climate change technologies being focused on, as we say, hydrogen, solar, wind, and then CCS, but those are not adaptation technologies. And the adaptation and the resilience technologies, like a very early stage phase, those like engineering researchers and also enterprises should invest, and even the government should invest on this. And what are the technology to better adapt the climate risk? What are the technologies to better enhance the resilience for human and economic societies? So those are, I think, we should really need to do. Again, joint research, joint early warning services, or the climate services for high impact hazards, high impact climate risks are very, very important to UK, to China, and to the globe.
So indeed, I think China-UK green and climate partnership needs more efforts from different parties to make it stronger, to enhance it to another level. Thank you, Professor Guan, for your great insights.
Thank you.
A big thank you to distinguished Chair Professor Guan Dabo from Tsinghua University, and thank you for listening to this episode of Climate Watch. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends. Bye for now.